Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder if you can really feel what someone else is feeling, especially when you are trying to trust them or when you are about to cooperate on something important? Well, this new study dives deep into that very question. We often assume that when we're in sync with someone, it automatically means we're going to get along and cooperate better. Think about that feeling when you are on the same wavelength with a friend. This research asks a really interesting question though. Does that feeling of being in sync actually help us trust each other? Or could it sometimes get in the way, especially when it involves risky decisions? When we rely on someone, especially with our resources or our feelings, there is always a bit of uncertainty. We take a leap of faith. This study looks at how our bodies, in a way we don't even notice, might be talking to each other during these trust-building moments, and how that body talk plays a role. Imagine this. You have to decide whether to share something valuable with someone new. You don't know them well. Will they be fair and share back, or will they take advantage? This is the core of trust. Historically, scientists thought that being in sync with someone, whether it is our heartbeats or our breathing, signals that we're connected and ready to cooperate. But this paper explores a twist. What if that bodily sync doesn't always lead to more trust, especially when we can actually see each other? To figure this out, the researchers designed a clever experiment. They had pairs of strangers play a version of the trust game. In this game, one person, the truster, decides how much money to give to the other person, the trustee. The amount given is then tripled, and the trustee decides how much of that tripled amount to give back. The tricky part for the truster is that they don't know what the trustee will do until after they've made their investment. This creates that real-world uncertainty we face when trusting someone. They had 61 pairs of people. All strangers participate, and they did this game in 2 different scenarios to see how seeing each other mattered. In one scenario, they could see each other face to face. In the other, a barrier blocked their view, so they couldn't see each other at all. While they played, the researchers were carefully measuring things like their heart rate and skin conductance, which is basically how much we sweat, a sign of our body's arousal or stress level. They also looked at their facial expression. So, imagine sitting at a table divided by a screen. You are making decisions about real money, and your body's reactions are being monitored. They wanted to see if being able to see your partner changed how in sync your bodies became, and if that sync affected how much you trusted them and how much they were willing to return. Now, here is where it gets really interesting. They expected that when people could see each other face to face, they would be more in sync physiologically, and they were right. So, when they could see each other, their skin conductance, that sweat response, became more synchronized. This means their physiological states were matching each other more closely. However, they also found that just looking at each other wasn't enough. The actual facial expressions didn't seem to be the main driver of this synchronization. It was something deeper, something happening at a bodily level. Now, for the bombshell, most research suggests that being in sync with someone is good for cooperation. But in this study, it was the opposite. When people were more physiologically synchronized in the face-to-face condition, they actually showed less reciprocity. That means the person getting the money was less likely to give back a good amount when they and their partner were highly synchronized and could see each other. This was a big surprise. It seems that in certain situations, feeling in sync might not be a good thing for trust. The researchers dug deeper to understand why. They found that this negative effect of synchrony on reciprocity only happened when people could see each other. And it was linked to something called arousal, which is basically how alert or aroused your body is. Specifically, they noticed that the truster, the person making the risky investment, had higher arousal. And when this truster had lower arousal, meaning they were perhaps less engaged or even a bit bored, higher synchrony with their partner actually led to less reciprocity from the trustee. It was as if the trustee was picking up on the truster's lower engagement through their synchronized bodily signals, and in turn was less likely to reciprocate. Think about it like this. If you are giving money to someone and you are both feeling pretty calm and in sync, maybe the other person interprets that calm synchronization as a lack of real interest or investment from your side, and so they're less compelled to reciprocate. It's like saying, if you are not that invested, why should I be? The effect disappeared when the truster had high arousal, suggesting that when the truster was really engaged or stressed, the synchrony didn't have this negative impact. What about the overall trust? They predicted that people would trust each other more and be more reciprocal when they could see each other. And they found that trustees did indeed reciprocate more in the face-to-face condition. But for the truster's investment, it was more complicated. It wasn't simply that they invested more when they could see their partner. It depended on the order in which they played the game. If they played the face-blocked game first and then the face-to-face game, they tended to invest more in the face-to-face condition. But if they played face-to-face first, their investment level stayed pretty much the same for the face-blocked game that followed. This suggests that once you see someone and form an impression, it's hard to shake that impression even when the visual cues are gone. Once you've given a face to the trustee, as the paper puts it, that impression sticks. So, what does this all mean? This study challenges the common idea that physiological synchrony is always a universally good thing that automatically leads to more trust and cooperation. It seems that while seeing each other can boost the synchrony itself can actually backfire, leading to less reciprocity, particularly in face interactions. The key takeaway here is that context matters. It is not just that we're in sync, but what we're in sync about and who is perceiving that sync. In this case, the trustees seem to interpret the synchronized bodily signals of the trusters in a way that, under certain arousal conditions, led to less trust being returned. It's a more nuanced view of how our bodies communicate and influence our social decisions. One limitation of the study is that the participants couldn't talk to each other. In real life, we can use words to clarify intentions and feelings, which might change how physiological synchrony plays out. Also, the amounts of money were not life-changing, so the stakes might not have been as high as in real-world situations. Future research could explore how talking affects this dynamic and perhaps use tasks with higher stakes. Overall, this research is a fascinating look into the hidden ways our bodies interact and how that interaction can shape our trust and cooperation. It moves us away from a simple sync equals good narrative and towards a more complex understanding where the environment, our emotional states, and what we can perceive of each other all play a crucial role. It reminds us that even when we feel perfectly in sync with someone, what that sync truly means can be quite different from what we might assume. What do you all think about this? Does this make sense with your own experiences of trusting others? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into psychology, make sure to give this video a like. Subscribe to RUBIN'S Mind Lab for more fascinating science and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.